Lisa Page, Miss Side Piece, has now filed a lawsuit against the FBI and the Department of Justice, citing the cost of therapy after Trump mocked her salacious text messages. That is an interesting thing for you to be suing over. She's not going to win this, obviously. Former FBI lawyer Lisa Page is suing the FBI and Department of Justice, alleging that the government's publication of her salacious text messages with anti-Trump ex-FBI agent Peter Strzok constituted a breach of the Federal Privacy Act, which, of course, it did not because, well, you're using government property and this stuff is available. In the complaint filed on Tuesday, the 39-year-old Page said that she suffered numerous damages, including a permanent loss of earning capacity due to reputational damage. That's unlikely. She could probably get a job at MSNBC or CNN and get paid more than she was getting paid in government work. The cost of therapy to cope with unwanted national media exposure and harassment caused by the disclosure, which, of course, the disclosure, came out with FOIA requests, so the government had to comply with that anyway. Page's complaint also sought reimbursement for the cost of child care during the transportation to multiple investigative reviews and appearances before Congress. So if you do something that is now legally questionable and have to appear as a witness in a legal capacity, the people who made you appear have to now cover your child care. She's got a pair. I'll give her that. It's probably why Peter Strzok liked her. Not that anything is wrong with that. Cost of paying data privacy services to protect her personal information and attorney's fees. On December 12, 2017, Page said in the complaint, DOJ or FBI officials disclosed her sensitive text messages directly to a select group of reporters to ensure they would become public. Page alleged that after the discovery, she would be able to prove that senior officials knew they were violating the law and that their conduct was willful and intentional. Unlikely. Among those texts was a July 2016 message in which Page wrote to Strzok, Hillary Clinton, just has to win now. I'm not going to lie. I got a flash of nervousness yesterday about Trump. Within days, the FBI began investigating then candidate Trump's alleged connections to Russia, which we now know were completely fabricated out of thin air. And after Trump made a joke at a presidential debate concerning his hand size, Page wrote, "This man cannot be president." Strzok, meanwhile, called Trump a douche and mocked Trump supporters and said that he was scared. Page's lawsuit lamented that Trump's tweets about Page's texts have been retweeted and favorited millions of times. Page went on, has targeted her by name in more than 40 tweets and dozens of interviews, press conferences, and statements from the White House. Yeah, when you say the things that you are saying, okay, you know what? Here's the thing. First of all, how dare she? And I just say that. You conspired with others to not just prevent somebody from being the president, but to overturn the results of an election and to falsely smear the individual as a spy for Russia or an asset of Russia. And she had a direct hand in some of the things that happened with other members of the Trump campaign being tied into all of this. She also changed around 302 reports to get people indicted. Okay, she changed them. We have her messages, her text messages she didn't want released to the public. We have her messages where she asks what edits should be made to these 302 reports, and then she makes those edits, and those people were charged with crimes. And now she's running around and saying, how dare you embarrass me publicly by telling the entire world that I did these things? Really? So the extent of the outrage you will see from some of her supporters, which are the amoebas out there, it's okay for her to work in collaboration with other individuals in government to get people thrown behind bars, to financially ruin them, to have marriages fall apart, people's homes to be lost. Okay, it's okay for her to do that to other people, but God forbid when you discover that she was a part of all of this, that we talk about what she said in her text messages as a part of that whole plot, because it embarrasses her. She argued that federal law prevents agencies from disclosing personal records about individuals unless an exception applies to the individual who is the subject of the record, consents in writing to the disclosure. Page's lawsuit claims that there was no public interest justification for the government's leak. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who are going to disagree with that, which is why we're talking about it so frequently. Given that the DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz was already reviewing the text and later found no evidence of bias affecting investigative decisions that it reviewed. And again, Horowitz, his administrative report is what it is. So she's basically saying Horowitz found no political bias, therefore there was no reason to release my stuff. The problem is that Durham did find political bias, and the Attorney General did find political bias, and they're the ones that really matter here. So she's going to get into this thing. She's going to get into the court. The judge is basically going to hold off on this thing until the other investigation, the criminal investigation of all of this is finished, and it's probably going to be tossed. So anyway, Horowitz noted in an initial report last year that Strzok and Page's anti-Trump texts were not only indicative of a biased state of mind, but even more seriously implies a willingness to take official action to impact the presidential candidate's electoral prospects. Now, she forgot to mention the original, earlier Horowitz report, where he did say that her political bias was very damaging to the investigation. She forgot to mention that part. But here's the thing. You had an affair with a guy. You got caught. You worked with said guy to do some things that were possibly illegal on your end, certainly highly unethical, were without a doubt a violation of FBI policy, likely a violation of the law, especially with regards to the 302 report editing. You did all of that. And now you're ticked off that everybody knows. Too bad. Pay for the babysitter, sit down, and take your comeuppance, because that's what you're going to have to deal with now. We got more coming up. Newstalk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.